Okay, so first things first, I think introductions are in order. My name is Ryuga, and I'm a student at Beacon Academy. I've only been here for a few days, but the headmaster piqued my interest. There's just something weird about him. So, I'll be honest, I snooped around his office. I know, I shouldn't do stuff like that, but I don't know, I couldn't help it. But when I did, I found this book. It's called Fairy Tales of Remnant, and it seems to have been written by him. I'm recording this because, honestly, this is stuff I want to get out. I want to make sure people know about this. So, yeah, it starts with the introduction. Remnant has a very long history, and yet we do not know much about its ancient past. We have many questions, and never all the answers we would like. But we do have stories. Whether they're true stories, passed down through the ages, or myths defying time itself, our stories help explain who we are and why we're here. They give us solace when we need it, advice if we seek it, and connections that bind us together as one people. If you don't believe in stories, if you can't accept their truths, then you will always seek and never find. When I became headmaster of Beacon Academy, one of my first goals was to introduce a deeper study of the stories that make up the fabric of our world. After all, I am first and foremost a teacher. The volume in your hands has been a pet project of mine for many years. I have traveled around Remnant to collect these fairy tales, myths, and fables from recent memory and distant times. I have discovered, in this lifelong pursuit, that if you wish to fully appreciate a story, you should consider its source and attempt to unravel and understand the storyteller's intentions. Why they tell this story? Why now? Yes, stories may be shared for entertainment alone. However, they also can disguise lessons, moral guidance, important historic records, moon-shattering revelations, and even dire warnings of hidden dangers in the world and difficult trials yet to come. It may seem self-serving to place this book at the core of a new curriculum at the Huntsman Academies. However, it also has been compiled with these academies especially in mind. Our students hail from all over Remnant, from all four kingdoms, and even some outlying regions. Each one brings a unique perspective to their studies, influenced by personal experiences, as well as those lived vicariously through others. I believe it is important and instructive to provide a common frame of reference, representing our diverse backgrounds and cultures, for us all to share. School is where young huntsmen in training will figure out the world and find their place in it. But stories, too, have served this noble purpose since long before the first academy was built. Because an appreciation of history is vital to preparing for our future. I've always found value in continuing and creating school traditions at Beacon Academy. If this collection is embraced as a cherished school tradition, I will be proud to have played some small part in that legacy. There are few things I can be certain of in this world, but I do know that stories, like those collected here, will always endure and illuminate. If we are fortunate, people will continue to tell our stories long after we're gone and remember us. Above all, it is always my hope that you, as students, and we, as people, will take time to listen to others' stories, share our own, and hold in our hearts the lessons we learn from both. Signed, Professor Osborne. Okay, So it seems that he wants this book to actually be part of a curriculum. Ah, well, guess I get a head start on everyone else. There was once a village on the edge of a lush forest, known far and wide as the safest place in the land. The evil creatures of Grimm had not attacked there since long before anyone could remember, and it was said that the woods themselves protected the people from harm, as long as no one dared to enter the charmed forest. It would keep the monsters at bay. The people went about their days with carefree spirits, and the village gradually grew as more people arrived to live in peace. Over time, the people grew complacent in their ways, taking their fortune for granted, and trusting they would always be safe and happy. The village children began to play games inside the woods, though they never ventured too far. After all, they'd never even seen a Grimm outside of a storybook. One day, a boy was playing hide and seek with his friends in the woods. He ventured farther inside than ever before, farther than anyone would even think to look for him. He waited and waited, alone in the gloomy forest. As night fell, the boy heard the woods come alive, with the sound of flapping wings, skittering insects, and rustling leaves. But he had never been afraid of the dark before, and he had always been curious about the forest. So instead of returning home to a hot meal and a warm fire, he wandered deeper into the trees. The boy soon found his way into a moonlit clearing, and there something found him. He first saw its 4 glowing red eyes, then the stark white of its long, sharp, curved tusks. This was the largest creature the boy had ever seen, and its pitch black hair was seemingly made of the night itself. He screamed. The boy couldn't help it, for he had never seen anything like a Grimm. For the first time in his life, he knew fear, and he felt sure he was about to die. The creature whirled on him, fixed the boy in its burning gaze, and charged. The boy froze, throwing his arms up in front of him and squeezing his eyes shut. But then, as he braced for the worst, something shoved him aside. He tumbled away through loose dirt, stones, and leaves, and when he looked up, he saw a tall, fair woman in a blowing black cape, facing off against the Grimm. She gripped a long-handled billhook with both hands. The boy was stunned to see the boar-like Grimm turn to run away from her. The woman charged after it, her bladed staff spinning so fast that it blurred. Just before she caught up to the Grimm, the woman planted the butt end of the weapon into the earth and vaulted, feet first, into the air. As she soared over the creature, she turned in midair, sweeping the hook blade down, slicing through the Grimm. It squealed and split in two. When the woman landed, she pivoted to face the Grimm again, but the broken pieces only puffed into thick black smoke and floated away. She spun the bill hook once more and holstered it on her back. "Go home. You never saw me," she told the boy, turning to leave. The boy jumped up. "Wait," he said. His ankle was sprained, and he hobbled after the woman, grimacing. She paused and looked back, and that was the first time he truly saw her. She was as beautiful as she was fierce. Up close, he saw her black cloak was threadbare, its hem tattered, tears throughout it, mended with frayed red thread. Her loose, grey blouse might have been white once, and her leggings were covered in mist-matched patches. Her hair was almost as dark as the Grimm's, white hairs standing out as brightly as bone. The metal hook of her weapon was chipped, and a crack was beginning to split the long wooden handle. "Thank you," he says simply. She nodded and continued to move away. "At least tell me your name," he called. But she disappeared into the trees. The boy limped home. He didn't tell anyone about the warrior woman who had saved him, but he described the terrible monster he had narrowly escaped. Those who believed him took his safe return as proof the woods protected him, and they continued living as they had. But the boy had seen the truth. So he watched the woods with caution, always remembering the woman, and he wondered, who was she? And why had she saved him? Was it that she kept the whole village safe? A year later, the boy returned to the clearing in the woods, and then he dared to go beyond it. Even during the day, it was dark amid the trees, and after some time he had realized he was being followed. A sense of dread overcame him, and when he looked over his shoulder, he saw two bright yellow eyes flaring in the shadows. He drew a dagger from his belt, and only faltered when the creatures crashed through the trees and howled before him. The Grimm had a gruesome, bony mask, and it was sharp all over. Sharp teeth, sharp spikes, sharp claws. It bounded towards him on four massive paws, its hind legs built for speed and power. The boy raised his dagger, but it was almost as useless as if he had been unarmed. He didn't cry out or try to run away. He was frozen in place by fear. Just then, he saw the woman drop from a tree onto the creature's back and hack at its neck with her billhook. Its handle was shorter now, and the boy saw she carried a sharpened stake made from its other broken half. When the Grimm tried to shake her off, she jammed the stake into one of its eyes. Then she jumped off and watched as the terrible, dark wolf toppled backwards and dissolved into a cloud of mist. She retrieved the stake, and its tip steaming. "Thank you," the boy said, finding his voice. She turned to him. "You again?" She shook her head and walked off. The boy felt an unexpected rush of joy. "You remember me?" "I remember everyone I've saved, and everyone I didn't." She paused to look at him. "I see you didn't learn your lesson about coming into my woods." He held up the dagger. "I came prepared." Her laugh was not unkind. "So you're a slow learner. Don't come back. Really." "I came looking for you," he admitted. She narrowed her eyes. "I don't train people to fight anymore." "It's not that. I brought you something." The boy pulled off his backpack and held it out to her. She hesitated before coming closer to take it. She wasn't as tall as she had seen before, and there were more white strands in her hair. But she was still proud and strong, and even more beautiful than he had remembered. "Okay, so it's getting a bit late, and not gonna lie, I do need to be up for school tomorrow, or else Professor Port is gonna kick my ass. So I am gonna leave that there. But when I pick this thing up again, you'll be sure that I'll make another video on it and I'll put it up. So, hope that was interesting enough for you.